Hey, Art. Just letting you know we haven't started yet. Um, Gonna make sure you can hear us. We were quiet once we started that recording.
Happy Christmas, Art. Thank you.
All right. Hey, everyone that's joining. We're just giving everyone another minute or two before we get started, so hang tight.
Yep, participant number keeps increasing.
All right, Max, what do you think? Should we get started?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Welcome, everyone. My name's Samantha Collin. I go by Sam. I'm a solutions engineer at DemoStack. Today's not about me. It's all about Max from Presales Rockstars. He's going to take us through an excellent presentation on aligning sales and presales. Fun fact, I prepped with him last week for this webinar, and I've already used some of those skills, some of those tactics that he's about to discuss with my sales team here at DemoStack. So really excited to start this off. We want this to be interactive. We want you to ask questions. I'm going to be acting as the MC, fielding the questions to Max as he goes through the presentation. So please don't hold your questions to the end. We want this to be fun and educational and really sharing information.
Cool. We good to go? Perfect. Thank you very much, Sam. I hope my audio is still okay. Perfect. Thank you very much. So welcome, everybody. Hello from Germany. Looking forward to this presentation. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Max, but most of you have probably seen me on LinkedIn. I'm the one who keeps flooding your feed with some silly memes every now and then. But other than spending way too much time on LinkedIn, I'm actually looking to help SEs like you provide better demo experiences to your customers, better understand their challenges by asking the right questions. And like today, I'm also trying to help you with some survival toolkits, I would call them, whenever you're engaging with some overly optimistic account executives, as I would phrase it, that are trying to take advantage of a couple of the things that you can do and provide. So let me quickly start sharing my screen, and then Sam and I will dive deep into a first poll to do some Q&A and keep this as interactive as we mentioned before.
Awesome. Thanks, Max. So we have 2 polls throughout this presentation just to keep you engaged, keep your fingers on your keyboards, but paying attention to our webinar here today. First question for the group here: about what percentage of your demos that you're giving do you perceive as unqualified, meaning that you're lacking those customer insights to really personalize the demo and understand their needs? Go ahead and open up that poll on the right-hand side. Your options are less than 25%, less than 50%, less than 75%, or greater than 75%. Go ahead and open those questions and fill it in. Give you about 10 seconds to open that up. All right, Amelia, can you go ahead and post those answers that we're seeing come in? All right, so the results are in with the poll. I see about 37% of you say that less than 25% of your demos are unqualified. That's pretty good. We're seeing about the same percentage, 37%, say that about 50% or less are qualified. And then we're seeing about 22%, 9 out of 41 of you said that about 75% of your demos are unqualified. And I'm happy to see that the greater than 75%, only 2 of you answered that number. So it looks like we're headed in the right direction, but we still would like to get, those top ranges of numbers down. So we're giving qualified demos. Max, what do you think?
I'm actually quite pleased with these results. So certainly if it's above 75%, there is some work that needs to be done, but I've seen worse results some time ago when actually most of the people said half of the demos we do aren't properly qualified. So I think it's reflecting reality and my recent experience, but I've also seen worse. So pleased we don't have to start from scratch. Cool. Thank you very much for sharing. Always helpful to just get a perspective on where we are and also provide some more context. Because, and of course, I need to kick this off with a little meme here. One of the things that I've observed during my career, so I've been working as an SE, I've also worked as an AE, so I was part of the dark side, but I've also been an SE manager, a sales manager, and sales enablement manager. I have very often experienced that the demos we do really lack clear goals and clear purpose. And that does not only mean that we do not only fail to understand our customers and their situation. This also starts when it's about aligning internally on what is it that we would like to achieve with the demo? What is it that we want to do? And what kind of customer behavior do we want to, let's say, provoke with our demo? So even this internal alignment is oftentimes missing. And this is oftentimes due to the fact that essentially the account executives are approaching us in solution engineering and telling us, hey, the customer asked to see the product, so let's show them the product. And this is like one of the default behaviors that I've experienced throughout my career in all my workshop engagement and gigs, that hardly anybody is really paying attention to what is it that we want to do with the demo here. Like you can see Joey, no matter how often you tell them, account executives will always find ways to take advantage of the situation and then go around the processes to make their customers happy, which is not bad per se, but there are different stakeholders involved here and we need to make sure that everybody is somehow aligned. And the one thing that I often see is when we don't have a clear purpose to the demo, that it's just show them everything that we can do, the customer will somehow figure it out, or just do an end-to-end walkthrough and they will ask when they find something interesting and relevant, and then we go a little deeper. And I think we don't have to go into so much detail here, why it is not so good to show them just everything and do a feature parade, because essentially those generic demos really fail to resonate with your customer because it's just too much and really hurts your conversion rates. And it's significant resources that is wasted every time you prepare a demo system, which can sometimes take hours. It can sometimes take days. And then you're also wasting your customers' time on that demo and your account executives' time because you're not really making it relevant to their situation. And then oftentimes people are wondering why they have so many stalled opportunities in their pipeline, which I think is a logical consequence if you simply do not know what your customer actually wants and you're simply loading everything off to them, the entire cognitive load of understanding what they're trying to achieve. So just show them everything really is not the way to go. And one thing what I would like to discuss with you today, or the main thing and the main purpose of today's demo, is really going through what I call the demo preparation checklist or the demo handover checklist, which is a list and a set of questions that you should be using internally together with your counterparts, the account executives, whenever there is a demo request. We will later discuss in what ways and shapes and form you can use that document, but I really consider this as a survival toolkit for you so you can better prioritize your work and also start triggering the right processes and the right thinking in your customers' mind so you can really better understand and align internally on what you do. And we will now walk through the individual segments here, and I will provide a couple of examples. Of course, I will start to tell a couple of stories around this, so you've got a better understanding of what this is actually about. And again, later we discuss about how we would like to implement this into our software. So let's zoom in a little bit on the red part here on top. And this is really the internal piece of the demo alignment, because this is something that you can and that you need to discuss with your sales counterpart. This has very little to do with what kind of information we have already gathered from our customer. This is really about what is it that we want to achieve with our demo from a sales process or decision-making point of view. So we want to define the objectives of the demo and why we're doing this. And the first thing you can see top left is purpose and goal. What customer behavior do we want to achieve? And there are a couple of good and bad examples that I would like to share with you. The red examples are the ones which are not so good. The green examples are the ones I would rather recommend. So let's have a look at purpose and goals and the first one here. And this is again going into the direction of give them an overview of our capabilities or satisfy our customers' need to see a demo. I mean, this is not really the purpose of a demo from our perspective, because this doesn't add any value to what we are trying to achieve from a sales point of view, moving an opportunity forward. Because when we do a demo, we always need to have a plan in mind of what we would like to achieve with a customer and how we would like to move them forward in the decision-making process. So we don't just show up and throw up, because this is pretty much pointless if we are not linking this to any relevant outcomes. So again, giving them an overview or satisfying their need to see something is not the purpose of the demo, but instead it could be something like getting access to their decision maker. And Sam, you have a question? I saw you unmuted yourself.
Yeah, just a comment from the chat. Talking about we've all seen kind of these bad red purpose and goals. You know, it almost feels like a check the box exercise. And Joe Moore says one of the worst ones he's heard is, I just want to spill some candy on the floor and see if they pick it up. So more along the lines of just show me a demo, show me anything. And I liked what you said of a feature parade, because that's really what it ends up being.
I mean, the one thing there's one illustration. Unfortunately, I didn't bring it today, but it's about what is data and what is wisdom and knowledge. So data means like the candy on the floor. It's lots of different loose bits and pieces. And then you essentially leave it up to your customer to connect the dots and figure out what is relevant to them, what is not. And this is usually confusing to them. Whereas if you go from data towards wisdom and knowledge, it is your job to pick the right candies from the floor, put them in an order, connect them with each other. And this is what your job in solution engineering is all about. So you take away this cognitive load from your customers and you put it into their perspective and provide your knowledge. And all of this starts here. So we get into this in a bit more detail on the next slide when we talk about what the customer actually needs. But this is more an internal perspective from us to really figure out, okay, which direction are we going and what is it we would like to achieve with that demo? So why are we investing time and resources into this? And to get back to one of the examples and one of my experiences, because very often I was doing demos to get access to the decision maker. For most of my career, actually, I was in a hybrid role. I was account executive / sales engineer. So I was Jekyll and Hyde, bad cop, good cop at the same time. So it was maybe a little different, but very often when a customer wanted a demo from me and we did the discovery, I of course always inquired about who is going to join the demo session, who are you going to bring? And then they usually said, well, it's myself and maybe somebody from IT. And then I started to ask about, okay, who is the decision maker and are they going to join? And I would say most of the time I got the feedback, well, decision maker is that person, but for this demo, it's just me and my colleague, because we want to get an overview ourselves before requiring their time and resources, because management resources are very expensive, which I totally get. But my return was always, okay, I totally get your point. So why don't we agree on the following? You and I, we do the demo together. And at the end of the demo, we both look into each other's eyes and see whether what you have seen just fits your requirements and what you're looking to achieve. And if you say, well, this is exactly what we were looking for, then we're going to schedule a 15-minute call with your manager to just talk through their perspective and get their understanding. If you say it's not what we're looking for, no hard feelings, we simply separate and everything is totally fine. And then I said, I invest time in preparing and doing the demo, and in return, there might be a meeting with your decision maker. Does that sound fair? And most of the time, like 80–90% of the cases, they said, it's okay, let's do it that way. And even if they said, no, I'm not willing to do that, I already felt like, okay, something is wrong, something is missing here. So it was a little bit like a shit test for your customer, where you could really sense, are they really serious, or are they already pushing back if you're trying to apply a bit more pressure. But long story short, for me, oftentimes the demo was about getting access to the decision maker, for example, because they were not coming to the first demo. So I made this upfront agreement with them. Other things you could do is, hey, we do the demo, and if everything is fine, we schedule a technical validation call to see whether this also fits in their IT infrastructure. Or for early stage customers, we want to create some urgency to figure out, okay, why do they need to change, and why do they need to change now to get to a compelling event? So this is a purpose and a goal of the demo. And this is different from the core message, because again, this is not about showing them all the cool things we can do. Talking about data again, we don't want to provide data, we want to provide context, and we want to provide knowledge here. So show them all the cool stuff is not cool. Demoing to them how customizable everything is not cool, because again, we would like to customize things in their way and not leave it up to them to figure out, it's all the different things I can do myself here. No, we want to show them exactly in their world how it looks like. So core message could be highlighting to your customers how our solution bridges a gap in resource allocation, if resource allocation is an issue, or how they can automate their auditing processes to avoid penalty fees. This is an example I will be using throughout the presentation here. So it is really about talking and having a narrative here. And one thing that they will take away from that demo, if they go away from a demo and they understand, this is how I can reduce penalty fees, this is how I can close my resource gap, then you have done a really good job. But first you need to learn internally on what that message is. If there is no plan, it's pretty much pointless. And this also, of course, affects the expected outcomes. Raise awareness for cost of an action could also be one thing, for example, closely related to create urgency. So expected outcome could be least successful outcome, still understand the current process, or at least identify their decision criteria. These are some takeaways that I don't think are the most, well, the top ones. This could be, again, meeting with the economic buyer, or demo with a further team, or identify a compelling event. But at least, even if it's not going the ideal way, there should be some minimal things that you would like to gather, like the process and the decision criteria.
Hey, Max, I have a question.
Yes.
What's the benefit of listing out the least successful demo outcomes with your AE? What's the benefit to that?
To me, it's always important to have certain thresholds, or a high and a low. The very same applies when I go into negotiation. I always said, okay, this is the very best where I would like to be. This is the bottom line. I don't go below that. And usually somewhere in between, you will find yourself. And I think this is also important for a demo to just figure out, and also to communicate maybe at the beginning, managing expectations of, hey, we're here in order to do X, Y, and that. And ideally, at least we can tick the minimum box and then leave it up to the customer whether we can do the full tour. But I think it's important to visualize what you're trying to achieve, because again, we need that plan and we need that objective.
Makes sense. Thanks.
Any other question you picked up along the way?
None yet. Get your
yet.
keyboards on, click that Q&A button. Let me interrupt Max so we can get some conversation flowing.
I will keep going on. But again, this is the internal piece. This is what you discuss with your account executive or whoever has scheduled that demo. This is what you and them need to align on. And this is my recommendation to you, that whenever an AE comes to you with a last minute demo request or something which you feel like, I'm not sure whether this is the right thing to do right now because I've got other priorities, it's super easy to just ask them, okay, can you tell me what is it you would like to achieve the demo? Why did you schedule the demo in the first place? And then you will feel if they are rambling around saying, they want to see this and that, or whether they already have a plan in mind. So I call this the next step. So demo is the next step, but what is the next step after the demo? Like I mentioned before, getting access to the decision maker. When I do the demo, I already have the next step mapped out. So little survival tool here for you, because your AE should be able to respond to these questions, or you will give them some homework to properly do so.
Awesome. We have a really relevant question from Joe Morse again. For a data point, how many of the SEs actually get to participate in that discovery? Hold tight on that question. We actually have a poll that's going to help us answer that and pull in some data points that it's all different across different companies, but maybe we'll see something different. All right, carry on, Max.
Yep.
Thanks, y'all, for commenting.
So let's take that part and go a little bit further into now also referring to your customer situation, because of course, when you want to do a demo that is successful, you need to understand your customers' needs and challenges and map it to what they are looking for. And this is a very helpful exercise to understand where you are in terms of, okay, this is my understanding, but also where you might see potential blind spot in the discovery you've done to date, which is totally fine. I mean, discovery is an ongoing process. There is not one discovery meeting or one discovery stage, and then you're good forever. Discovery goes on and on and on, because every time there's a new stakeholder involved, you got to do new discovery and understand their preferences, priorities, etc. So it's a little bit of a growing list, but at least you should know a couple of things here, and again, realize when some information might be missing. And the first thing here is, what is the company's business issue? And the business issue is really something that is a core objective of the organization. And it's something that if they do not resolve it, they might really be into struggle. And these are usually problems that companies are willing to invest money for to get this fixed, to get this done and off their table. So it's really something of importance. And this is oftentimes one thing we have to work with together with our customers, because companies are really, and people are really good at talking about challenges and problems. I mean, I'm German. We are very great at complaining about the status quo. And then it's your job together with them to lift it up to the business issue. Sam, question for now. I see you're unmuted yourself.
No question yet. Sorry.
Okay, all good. Just my little cue. So let's have a look at what a business issue actually is and what it's not. And again, I'm going into storytelling mode. At the beginning of my SE career, I was working for a company that was doing innovation and idea management. So essentially, it was a platform where employees could submit ideas around new products, continuous improvement, whatsoever. And I was the SE. I was mostly doing the demos. And oftentimes, my account executives came to me very proudly saying, look, I've got this new prospect. I did discovery with them, and they need more ideas. And they thought like, okay, they had figured out discovery here. But I was wondering, okay, why do they need more ideas? More ideas in itself is not a business issue. It's not a critical problem. So I invested some more minutes to reach out to that prospect and dive a little deeper with them to really figure out, okay, can you tell me why you need more ideas? And again, the feedback I got from that person was on customer side, yeah, well, we just need more ideas. So I had to do a little bit of digging and educating them, asking, okay, but why do you need to have more ideas in the first place? And they started to tell me, because we have too few ideas. And then I said, why do you have too few ideas? How does it manifest in your business? And they started to mention, well, you know, we have a very thin innovation pipeline, and that is an issue. And then kept asking, why is a thin innovation pipeline an issue? And then they mentioned, actually, there was a Chinese competitor, and that Chinese competitor took away 30% of our market share because they are faster, they're more efficient, and they are more innovative. And that's why we have to come up with new products and features ourselves so we can regain that 30% market share. And this is when I understood, okay, this is a business issue. It's not about having more ideas. It's really about reclaiming that loss of market share. And I could go into the annual report, figure out their market segments, how much money they were making there, and what 30% actually is, which was quite a lot of money. And this is a critical business issue. And this, if you can resolve that, this is what companies are willing to spend money on. And this is ideally where you need to get. And this is what you need to do together with your champions on customer side, because also they do not always know. And they need your support to massage it into them a little bit. Further examples from the auditing example we'll be using. So a critical business issue is not to automate audits and compliance. The issue is that companies have to spend 350K in penalty fees because they've missed their audits. There is money on the table here, and another problem that's worth 350K. And you have to distinguish this from problems and challenges, because problems and challenges are the things leading to the business issue, but they're usually on a lower level. So problems and challenges for missed audits could be lots of manual processes and errors, lost records, missing documents, or simply approval processes spread across tools and stakeholders that people will miss. So really leading to a mess. But adding them all up will lead to the business issue of penalty fees, for example. And then you got to acquire about, okay, how are you measuring this right now? And it could be compliance preparation time, could be penalties, and the gap could be that, hey, we want to actually ensure a zero audit penalty policy where we don't pay anything at all, and at the same time reduce preparation time by 50%. So you could spin it even further, but this is what I deem a good understanding of your customer situation, or again, spot where you might be missing a little bit, to then translate it into your actual demo. Any questions about this part?
I have a question, Max. What advice would you give to SEs who struggle to push back when this type of information isn't there, when it wasn't really qualified enough to have this depth of understanding of the customer?
It refers back to what we had on the previous slide when it's about setting your demo objective. Because if you realize, okay, we're missing information here, you could also adjust the demo objective in a way that we would now like to understand what is their gap, what are their metrics, what is the process. So we then need to reframe the demo maybe and figure out, okay, maybe we don't get them to close after the demo because we don't know the following bits and pieces, but we use the demo to do a little bit of discovery in disguise. So give and get. Show them something, do discovery as you go, use this information to further tailor your process. But again, that's why it's so important to also be aware of these blind spots. So know what you know, but also know what you don't know, to really dig deeper. And like maybe I did, I was a proactive SE. That's why I probably became an AE. I simply asked my customer these kind of information to make it worthwhile for them, like selling them the benefits of investing another 20 minutes with me to make the demo more sophisticated. All right, if there are no further questions, let's go to the next slide. And here it really comes to mapping your demo, mapping your software with what you have just learned from your customer. So you need to look at what capabilities are we going to show during our demo, and those are usually the ones which are in line with what we have just seen on the previous slide. So ideally, the things you have identified under problems and challenges are the bits and pieces that you will be referring to in your demo when it comes about, or it's about aligning your capabilities, because we want to make it relevant and we want to eliminate all that noise from your software demo, which is not relevant to them. Again, data and wisdom, get all that stuff out that is not relevant and only focus on the things which are relevant to them. And actually, Sam and I had an interesting discussion when we were preparing for this meeting, because at first the top point was called aligning features and needs. And Sam raised a very valid point about, do we really want to speak about features because they might not understand it? Or again, we're shifting the focus away from being customer-centric towards being product-centric. So the term capability actually is much, much nicer if you do it in the right way. So to give you an example, what is not a good way, for example, CRM integration is rather generic and rather lame. So this could mean anything but nothing. It's not a capability that I would pitch in a demo. So instead, what you could do is use your customer's words and make it self-explanatory without using your own terminology and product name. So you could say, hey, you said you're struggling with audit approvals and spreading them across different systems. So you're looking for something that orchestrates all these things around different systems like Salesforce and Coupa you're using. So this is very specific, something you can do. And I think it's self-explanatory for somebody that has experienced that kind of problem. The same applies for, hey, we are looking for some error-free documentation and document management, standardized processes, real-time triggers when people are getting involved. So people can really relate to this and directly understand, cool, this is what this is about, and not some fancy AI blah, blah. And again, everything here is coming from the previous slide and the problems and challenges that you have identified.
One pattern I see, Max, here is that there's like an action verb. I'm going to unify approvals. I'm going to error-free document management through standardized processes. I'm going to triggers to align people and systems. It's almost like if you underword that action, if you underline that action word, you know what the demo is. To me, this is the key. This is the demo.
Yeah.
This is our highlights. This is if you walk away with anything, I wanna see these three things. And it's like you said, it takes your product, your terminology, your vocabulary out of the picture, which is hard when you are in your own space all the time. Now, Max, one more thing. I have an interesting question from Dara. Hey, Dara. We know each other. Question, very good one. How do you get buy-in from sales exec leadership to follow this type of model? Because, and I've encountered this also, managers are okay with sales reps not having all this information. So there's always but come on, it's this client. Come on, it's this client. There's always a but. How do you get buy-in from sales execs?
Yes. Well, first of all, what you need is support from management side, that you are as an SE, that you can actually have a mandate to ask these kind of questions to your account executive, like the ones we had before. Meeting, what are the meeting objectives? I think this is something every company should embrace and in some way or form make mandatory. We'll get to this in a bit, how to implement this. But as long as there is no mandate from management, then there is literally no chance for SEs to push back without seeming super unsupportive. Because again, yeah, it's that opportunity. The piece again, and the importance of this exercise is to really figure out, okay, what are the missing bits and pieces? What are the insights we do not have on customer side? And then tailor the demo accordingly. So there's not just one kind of demo. So this is maybe a topic for a different day, but it always depends on where you find your customer in their customer buying journey. Is this a customer that is completely new to the topic? Did they understand the problem in the first place, or do we need to sell them the problem before we can position our solution? Because there is no solution without a problem. So with them, you maybe have to do another demo. And again, you want to create urgency as a demo objective. Whereas if you have somebody that is shortly before making a decision, you would like to really reassure them or finalize IT integration. So you need to have this discussion internally. And I think it's not bad. And it's saving everybody quite a lot of time, because, I mean, all the time that you as an SE invests into a poorly qualified demo that has no plan and no objective, you cannot invest elsewhere. So I would always argue with opportunity cost, saying, yes, dear account executive, I can do that. I can support you here, but that would mean I cannot support that opportunity and this deal. So what is the trade-off here? But everything starts from top. If your management is not bought into this kind of principle, then it's really hard. But on the other side, I think it's really easy to track if demo conversion, if deal conversion is increasing, if you start implementing an approach like this in a lightweight fashion. Very long answer. I'm sorry.
So Max, just to summarize, I like what you said. You said, like, use the metrics to show that poorly qualified demos is either a waste of time so early, or, you know, if we had this information, when we do have this information filled out and we have this connection between the AE and the SE on the checklist, you have better qualified deals, better outcomes, faster, whatever those metrics that your sales team's looking at. That's the way to prove it. And I think it's kind of chicken or the egg. Does the exec leadership say to do it, or do you do it and show the results? I think there's a lot to say about that. But so thank you.
If you can achieve a couple of quick wins, that's always super helpful. And then I like what you said, chicken and egg. I mean, this is what we have to solve on customer side all the time. Why do they need the product? How can we prove value without them using it? It's hard to say. So.
And Dave Herder had a great comment, not really a question, but a follow-up to Dara's question is, what we're saying, the best way to convince leadership is to bring the data to the table. If you can show with concrete data, if you can perhaps run a trial or a pilot on measuring the conversion rates while using the checklist and not using the checklist, or for qualified versus unqualified, kind of the feature parade. Dave here is sure that the data is going to speak volumes, and I'd like to conduct an experiment on that as well. Art also says, appeal to the sales who are money driven. Help me help you. There has to be something in it for the account executive. I always say that about demos in general. There has to be something in it. If you're telling them to give a demo, do extra qualification, what's in it for them? Love that, Art.
I mean, same applies also when you do an extra round of discovery with your customer. You need to sell it to your customer too. Why should they invest more time when they actually just want to see the product? So it's not just always about us saving time and resources, but take somebody else's perspective too. All right, but I'm also very interested. There's another poll in 2 or 3 slides where we talk about how to implement this kind of process and how we have done so far. I'm really looking forward to these kind of results. To finish up on this, timeline and urgency. I don't know whether the Germans thing, but when you ask Germans about when would you like to have something in place, they either say ASAP, or they would say something funny like, yesterday. So we do this a lot apparently. And every time I hear such kind of timeline, I'm asking them actually, okay, if it's so super urgent, why didn't you do anything about it yet? And then you oftentimes understand, okay, we have not really identified the critical business issue yet because it's just a nice to have. So ideally, you get something like, we have been having issues with auditing. Next audit is coming up end of Q1, so we better have a system placed then to save another 350K. So this is quite nice. And last but not least, of course, have the attendees listed here, do some due diligence on what they need, structure your demo in a way that ideally you start appealing to the CFO, who's the most important person. So the first piece of the demo meeting should be around the CFO and their challenges, because oftentimes after 15 minutes, they're elsewhere out of the meeting, or at least mentally, and then go through the other individual stakeholders here. And this is, in the end, the entire checklist again. And of course, there are dependencies between the different elements here. So ideally, the core message and the business issue should correlate with each other. And very often the core message is about tell the customer how we can resolve their business issue in a few words. It's important. The business issue usually originates from a couple of problems and challenges. So they depend each other. And the problems and challenges are the capabilities that you're going to map in your demo. So ideally, there's a 1-to-1 relation between, or ratio between, problems and challenges. So every problem should ideally have one specific capability that you can show in your software, and the rest is noise, or you wait until your customer asks about it, but make it as concise as possible. Metrics, goals, and gaps are dependent on each other. The gap also drives urgency. So if there's a huge gap, like 350K, that's something you can work on. And core message and attendees, of course, are dependent on each other, because the CFO has different stories, different needs compared to an IT admin who is mostly interested in how to integrate this and how little extra work this is compared to somebody looking into automating auditing processes and saving lots of money here. So dependencies are important. And last but not least, this to me. So if you would be working for me, well, I'm self-employed now, but in a sales org, the red pieces are non-negotiable. So if you cannot respond and provide me the information, why are we doing this in the first place and what is it you would like to achieve, I will give you a hard time. Because again, this is just doing a demo because the customer asked for it, or just because we want to show to management that we're making progress by moving deals forward for the sake of moving it forward and scheduling a demo because just not for fun, but because we want to signal something, doesn't help. So always have a plan in mind, always know what the next step is. If you don't even dare to ask for SE resources. The rest, I would say, I distinguish information in layer 1, layer 2, layer 3. Layer 1 would be something, at least we have a vague understanding of their industry. We know common customer challenges, for example, or like in the previous example, they said, we need more ideas, at least something to work with. It doesn't need to be perfect. And again, this is a living and breathing document, and you can do it for every single demo. But be aware of what you know and what you don't know, but you cannot go in here if you're completely blind. Then you need to do a different demo approach. Then you need to, if you don't know any of this, you need to sell the problem and not to talk about solutions. So red, non-negotiable. The other part, yeah, well, have at least a good understanding.
Max, it seems like we have some more questions about, how do we ensure we actually do this? It's a great idea, but what's keeping us from starting it and just throwing it away a week later because we have a lot of demos to give? What role does management have in this? Kind of similar to Dara's question.
Yeah, again, it needs to start from management, because AEs, if there's not a mandate from management, and even if there is a mandate, account executives will always find ways how to get around this, or issue a wild card, or have this. How often did I meet AEs that came to me and said, I've got this very important meeting coming up now. They want to buy next week. We have to do everything now. To then 10 minutes later, another AE walking into my office telling me the exact same story. So
yeah, and Cheryl brings up a good point.
yeah.
Appealing to that shared goal with the account executive, right? You have a relationship. We're all human. End of the day, we're all here to make money and to win. And so just reaffirming with your AE that we're here for the same thing. I want to win just as much as you, but I need this, and this to make our chances this much better. And just to point back to your checklist, the least successful outcome, if we don't do this right, could be another demo and another demo, or a lack of urgency, a lack of direction. And then we fall into some of these traps, which lead to those stalled deals that you started with.
And I think this is the demos, or the opportunities which are ill prepared and not properly qualified, are usually the ones taking you the most time, because as you mentioned, they want to see one demo after another, and you're going back in circles because you never have these kind of objectives set. Objective might even to disqualify a customer, but they will be getting back to you all the time, and this is really not resource efficient. But there was a good transition to how do you actually implement this, and what is the feasible way? And I was actually quite rigorous about this in my previous roles when I was managing the sales teams. And what I did, I was implementing entry or exit criteria, which also, well, it ensures adherence to the process and also makes it repeatable, which is always important when it comes about scaling sales orgs and sales processes. So you have a simple part of a sales process, you have discovery, you have demo, and then you have something like POC. It's just to illustrate something. And then you've got entry and exit criteria, meaning that when you move a deal from discovery into demo stage, there are certain information that you would need to provide, usually as an account executive when going from disco to demo, in order to go from that one stage to another. And actually, I always used HubSpot. There is a very simple way how you can configure this in HubSpot. So essentially, there would be a pop-up popping up when moving the deal here, and there would be a couple of mandatory fields, which, surprise, are the ones we had on the checklist. So my account executive, they had to provide the information. I refer to the red ones, the non-negotiables. So they had to provide these information. And as not mandatory fields, they were then also required to fill in the greenish part about what is my understanding of the customer situation, but to have an understanding of where we are and what might be missing here. But this was a really tough way to, they had to do it. I enforced this, but there also was a wildcard, of course. So if they felt like this really is an opportunity, I've been prospecting into this account for 2 years and they finally agreed to a demo, I don't want to do 3 rounds of discovery with them. Yes, there are wildcards, but that was a very efficient way to really ensure adherence to the process and make them do this. And then there was little to no way around this. So this is the rigorous example, I would say.
Or like the stick instead of the carrot.
Yeah. But maybe to sum a couple of things up I talked about. So first of all, I mean, to me, this kind of checklist is the survival toolkit, because if you're being approached with lots of unqualified demo requests, just start asking these kind of questions and create some feeling for, okay, and raise and educate your AEs in a certain way that this is what I would need from you. So ideally, this will be coming from management, but it's also a really good way for yourself to figure out, okay, why should we do this in the first place? And do this thinking exercise together in a very informal way. And then over time, you can start implementing this into your CRM as not mandatory fields, maybe to put it somewhere. And over time, if you see success, become a bit more rigorous about this. But start somewhere, and don't let the others be bullies. Asking smart questions, well, can also be painful, at least in school, if you're too smart. But it starts a thinking process. Unless there are no other questions. Actually, there's the poll that I would be really interested in to see the results.
All right, Max, can you show the next slide so we can get those poll questions up?
Of course.
All right, another poll. Get your keyboards out. click the poll that should be popping up on your screen right now. This is an interesting question. I think we're all really curious. How many of you systematically assess your demo request? How many of you have a formal process to request a demo where you're utilizing some type of entry and exit criteria in some official way that says you must do this before you pass go, before you can give a demo? Versus how many of you have more of an informal process? Maybe you sync with your AE for 15 minutes and get a feeling. And then how many of you have no formal process, kind of the Wild West? Pick your day. Please answer your questions. I'm going to give you 15 more seconds. So again, this is all about, do you systematically assess your demo requests? Should this go forward or not? Is there a high level? Is there a deal desk review? Do you have something in place? Kind of have something in place or nothing? All right. Submit your
Super
answers.
excited.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Amelia, show the results. I love this. This is my dream, to be an MC. All right. So the results are in. We had 35 responses. Thanks for participating. The lowest category is formal process in place. So 20% of you have a formal process in place for assessing demo requests. Second from the bottom is no formal requests. So it goes formal process, then no formal process, and then the most answered response was an informal process in place with 54%. So about half of you have some type of informal process, and the other half is split between formal and not formal, which is really interesting. I'd love for some of the folks who answered informal, which happened to be the most answered. What does that look like? What's an informal assessment of the demo request? Does it look something like the checklist? Is it just the casual sync or Slack with the AE? What does that look like for you?
Yeah. While you're typing something in, one of the things I commonly observe is when there are informal processes that every SE has kind of their own checklist, or they have their favorite AE SE relation, and at least you get to know each other at one point in time. But that can also lead to relations where your favorite AE is just coming to you saying, hey, just do the usual stuff, like we did with that most recent customer, which is not replicable. So even if you have something informal, ideally everybody should be using the same kind of checklist, even if they do it on their own, rather than having 10 different Notion templates or whatever in place. But I'll let you screen the responses if there are any.
I do see a hand raised, but we are not currently allowing attendees to speak. So if you have an answer or want to post something, please post in the chat or the Q&A. Oh, we have a response from Corin McCourt. The informal request is to generally just contact the AE, but if there isn't an opportunity to do that, they'll log into the CRM tool and go through the correspondence with the customer. So that's kind of like sounds to me like the SE taking it on themselves to review the gongs, review the Slacks, review the emails, which is really not the same of getting that download from the AE, I'd say. Right, Max?
Yeah, I would say this goes more into like no system in place. If you have to carry the entire load, this is not what it should do. Okay. There will be some time for Q&A at the end. So if there is something more, we can dig deeper probably at the very end. But to summarize, so to me, really the thing is, and this is what I had to do most often as a sales manager, because you want to establish this repeatable, replicable model and use resources effectively. Demo without a clear goal and plan is pure coincidence, because anything could happen. There's zero predictability, and oftentimes things will just stall. So without purpose, demos lack direction. And make sure at least to align internally on what you would like to achieve and why you're doing this in the first place. Because demos are something that is strategically driven, like on the Joey meme. It's not just to show what you can do, it's to move forward with your opportunity, to also understand what is my customer looking to achieve, what are their concerns maybe, and how can we then move on with them. What is the one message, the one theme that you would convey through your demo? usually very closely aligned with what is their most critical issue. And then our core message is, hey, this is exactly how easy it is to solve that. What are the expected outcomes? What are the next steps? And really, the better you understand your customer, it's not just about making the demo most relevant. If you're better at understanding your customer, they will have a much stronger connection with you, because if they really feel that you hear them and that you understand them, you can bond with them already during discovery, because listening to their story and to their challenges is much more powerful than going into product solution pitch mode all the time, if it's really about them and not just about you looking for ways to sneak in your product. You can really build that trust level here. And if you like to have the template, there is a free checklist. You can download the checklist from Google Drive. It's an Excel version, it's a PowerPoint version, it's a PDF version, and then it's up to you how you implement this. But at least what I would like to take everybody away is use the red questions. I refer to them as a red question. Ask, what is the purpose of the meeting? Why do you want me to do this? And also challenge your AEs a little bit. So don't let them push you around all the time. Because that oftentimes leads to nowhere, and people will feel, and they will feel if they can easily get you to do random demos or not.
Thanks, Max. A couple last thoughts from the groups and the folks in the chat. Joe Moore says the most effective step in the sales cycle is the discovery. Not only do we get the information, which is important, but you build that trust, that relationship. I can help you. I'm not just a salesperson. And as an SC, that's one of my favorite parts of the deal, is to start building that relationship and improving that out. Another comment here from going back to what's your informal approach? Got a message from Cheryl, kind of all over the place. You get a Slack with the basics. You might get the SDR call to review. You might have an account plan with some requirements, or you might just get an invite on your calendar to say join. Now that makes me stress because am I checking all those different routes every day, every hour to see what might pop up? So standardizing, getting on the same page with your account executive, help me help you. Let's use this as a framework.
Yeah, this is the worst for me, to just like having no control over your own calendar when there are just random demo requests popping in, and I don't know, you have something next morning, 8:30 a.m. and you don't know what this is all about, who the customer is.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Couple more thoughts all over the place, hoping to tackle it. You and me both, Cheryl. I think the best thing you can do is to start. That's what I got from Max Lex last week when we prepped this. The best thing we can do is to start somewhere. It's to start with a pilot, a trial, getting those metrics to prove to your management, this is going to help us win. This is going to help us win faster. Yeah.
You don't have to have the perfect solution in place as of now. Try and error, measure if you can.
Yeah. Another question from Corin, since we have a couple more minutes. I like this one. How much do you normally expect your AE to do the heavy lifting on discovery versus the SE?
Good question. I don't know whether I can point out a certain percentage. I mean, this of course depends a little bit on how knowledgeable your AEs are, how far they can go in terms of discovery, and when it's maybe getting a little too techy and too complicated for them to understand. I would say at least the AEs should be capable of, on a higher level, articulate the business issue from their understanding of previous customers. So the good thing is if you know who you're talking to, you usually know also what their key challenges are. So there's similarity between the customers you work with, and if you have worked with the same persona or job role 2 times before, I think you know what they're experiencing, and then you can tease them a little. When it comes to going a little bit deeper on challenges, metrics, for example, and all this kind of stuff, I was actually more successful getting into this as an SE. So for example, whenever I was looking into, hey, FYI, you can customize dashboards. I was doing the very same, introducing features like you can customize the dashboards, but I always used this in disguise to ask them, hey, what are the metrics that you would be looking at if you create a dashboard? What are your current figures? So there are a couple of things you can easily do as an SE on the go, making it tangible during your demo. So, hey, what would your dashboard look like? Tell me. So
one of my favorite questions, and you hit on this in the beginning. It's just asking why again. The
yeah,
first why, the first pain you might hear is usually what that person's feeling. The second why might be what's behind that pain, and the third why is probably really what's causing it.
yeah,
So asking why or explain more is a really easy way to let the customer open up, um, and just hear them out.
yeah.
You're not evaluating, you're not, adding your 2 cents, you're just seeking to understand. And I think asking why or tell me more is a great way
Yeah.
to do
One,
that.
I always like to open my discovery calls with easy questions because usually people won't tell you their darkest secrets or issues right away if you're a stranger. So I always try to open with easy questions like, can you tell me what your current process looks like? And then actually as an SE, it's easier because when they tell you about the process and as it is right now, you can better spot issues and listen to like the little signals in between where they, okay, this is taking us too long. Then as an SE, you can go, oh, how long does it take? So this also is a nice way to start easy and then go down that positive rabbit hole, I would say, of how long does it take.
Well, thank you, Max. It looks like the questions in the chat have stopped typing. So I'm sure folks are starting to head out to lunch or to start their evening if they're in the UK or across the pond. Max, thank you so much for joining. This was great. A lot of positive comments in the chat. Just really looking forward to sharing this with their team. This is recorded, and we have we'll send the recording as well as the checklist in the meeting send off. Last thing, if you happen to run a pilot or a trial on enforcing this demo checklist, would love to hear how that turns out. Find Max and I on LinkedIn. I think that's what we're all looking for, is show us the proof, and then others will do it. So be the first one to start capturing those metrics. Would love to see that.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you very much for having me again. Thanks for the good questions. Really the right way to tackle this. And fingers crossed, I leave it up to you now to try it out. Good luck with that.
All right. Everyone have a happy holiday and a good new year. Bye.
See you.